You don't have to be healed to be powerful. Welcome to Soft Girl Era, the sacred space where strong Black women unlearn survival, rediscover softness, and reclaim the joy, rest, and freedom they deserve. I'm your host, LeAnne Dolce, pronounced Dolace, like sweet softness whispered in French. I'm your guide from burnout to boundaries, from doing to being, from strong to soft, and loving every second of it. Today, I want to share something with you that came from a powerful conversation I had with Qwantrell Holliday, a visionary who is breaking generational curses and empowering Black women and entrepreneurs to rise, even while they're still healing. Quantrell is not just a voice in the wilderness, they are a force reshaping the narrative for an entire generation of women who have been told they must carry the weight of the world on their shoulders. Through their work, Quantrell has created pathways for women to step into their power without apology, to heal without hiding, and to lead without losing themselves. They reminded me of something we often forget in our hustle, in our grind, in our constant push to be everything to everyone. They reminded me that transformation doesn't wait for perfection. It begins in the mess, in the uncertainty, in the very midst of our pain. And that's what I want to talk to you about today. We've been taught that healing is something you finish before you step into your power. We've been told that you need to have it all together, that you need to be fully healed, fully whole, fully ready before you can inspire anyone, before you can pursue your dreams, before you can show up as your authentic self. But what if that's not true? What if the very thing that makes you powerful is your willingness to show up authentically, even while you're still on the journey? Let me ask you something. How many of you have waited? Waited to start that business until you felt more confident, waited to share your story until you felt less broken, waited to set boundaries until you felt stronger, waited to choose yourself until you felt more deserving. How many of you are still waiting? Here's what Quantrell Holiday taught me and what I want to share with you today. Healing and self empowerment are not linear journeys. They don't follow a neat timeline. They don't come with a checklist that says, congratulations, you're healed. Now you can live your life. No. True transformation often begins at the lowest points of our lives, not after we've fixed everything, but in the very midst of our pain and uncertainty. Think about that for a moment. The lowest points, the moments when you feel like you can't go on, the moments when you're questioning everything, the moments when you're still carrying the weight of trauma, still figuring out who you are, still learning to say no without guilt. Those moments, those messy, uncertain, painful moments, are often the very beginning of your greatest transformation. Let me tell you about three women who understood this truth deeply. Three women who didn't wait until they were fully healed to change the world. Three women who showed up authentically even while they were still on the journey. First, let's talk about Arian Simone, Keisha Knight Pulliam, and Ayanna Parsons, the founders of the Fearless Fund. These three Black women created a venture capital fund that invests exclusively in businesses led by women of color in the United States. Now, you might think that sounds straightforward, but let me tell you what they faced. They faced systemic barriers in fundraising. They faced skepticism from traditional investors who didn't believe in their vision. They faced underrepresentation in an industry that was never designed for them. They walked into rooms where they were the only ones who looked like them, the only ones who understood the unique challenges that women of color face when trying to access capital. They were told no more times than they could count. They were dismissed, underestimated, and doubted at every turn. But here's the thing, they didn't wait until the system was ready for them. They didn't wait until they had all the answers. They didn't wait until the path was clear. They built a powerful network. They leveraged media visibility. They focused on community based investment strategies. And you know what happened? They raised millions of dollars. They funded dozens of women of color led startups. They significantly increased access to capital for a historically marginalized group. They became a leading voice for equity and venture capital, influencing industry practices and public policy. They inspired similar funds and initiatives nationwide, shifting the entire landscape for Black women entrepreneurs. They didn't wait to be healed, they didn't wait to be perfect. They showed up in the midst of the struggle and they changed the game. They understood that their power didn't come from having it all figured out. Their power came from their refusal to let the brokenness of the system stop them from building something new. They chose to create the table they were never invited to sit at. They chose to fund the dreams that traditional investors refused to see. They chose themselves, and in doing so, they chose an entire generation of women who would come after them. Now let's talk about Morgan DeBaun, the founder of Blavity Inc. Morgan created a media tech company that centers Black voices and culture through digital content and events. She saw a media landscape dominated by mainstream narratives, limited access to funding, and the challenge of building trust with a diverse audience. She could have waited for someone else to create the space she needed. She could have waited for the industry to change, but she didn't. Morgan focused on authentic storytelling. She focused on community engagement. She leveraged technology to amplify underrepresented voices. And what happened? Blavity grew into a multi-million dollar company. She launched successful conferences like Afro Tech, which became a gathering place for thousands of Black professionals and entrepreneurs seeking connection, opportunity, and community. She became a go to platform for Black millennials who were tired of seeing themselves misrepresented or not represented at all. She expanded to multiple brands, including 2190 and Travel Noir, and secured major partnerships. She transformed the digital media space for Black professionals and entrepreneurs, proving the value of authentic representation. Morgan didn't wait until she felt ready. She didn't wait until the world validated her vision. She showed up authentically and she built something that changed lives. She understood that the stories we tell about ourselves matter. She understood that representation isn't just about being seen, it's about being seen truthfully, fully, and powerfully. She created a platform where Black voices could speak for themselves, where Black culture could be celebrated without apology, where Black professionals could connect and thrive. She didn't wait for permission. She claimed her space and invited others to do the same. And finally, let me tell you about Rachel Cargill and the Loveland Foundation. Rachel started a foundation that provides therapy support to Black women and girls. She faced the stigma of mental health in the Black community, a stigma that has kept generations of Black women suffering in silence, believing that seeking help was a sign of weakness, that therapy was something for other people, not for us. She faced funding constraints. She faced the need to build trust with those seeking help to convince them that healing was not only possible, but necessary. But Rachel understood something profound. She understood that healing doesn't happen in isolation. She understood that we don't have to wait until we're fully healed to help others heal. Rachel launched the Therapy Fund. She partnered with therapists nationwide. She used social media to destigmatize mental health conversations, speaking openly about her own journey, her own struggles, her own need for support. And the impact, thousands of Black women and girls have received free or subsidized therapy. The foundation has raised millions to expand its reach. It became a model for culturally competent mental health initiatives with national recognition and support. Rachel helped shift the conversation around mental health in Black communities, empowering individuals to seek healing and support without shame, without guilt, without fear. Rachel didn't wait until she had it all figured out. She didn't wait until she was perfectly healed. She showed up vulnerably and she created a space for collective healing. She understood that the greatest gift we can give each other is the permission to not be okay, the permission to ask for help, the permission to heal in community. She broke the silence that has kept so many of us trapped in our pain. She said out loud what so many of us have been afraid to whisper. And in doing so, she created a movement. Now, what do these three stories have in common? What do Arian, Kesha, Ayana, Morgan, and Rachel all understand that we need to understand? They understand that you are not defined by your trauma. Your power lies in your ability to rise and reclaim your narrative, even while you're still on the journey. They understand that choosing yourself is an act of courage and faith, and it's okay not to have all the answers at the start. Trusting the process is part of the transformation. They understand that breaking generational curses is possible, and sharing your story authentically can inspire and empower others to do the same. Let me say that again because I need you to hear this. You are not defined by your trauma. You are not the sum of what happened to you. You are not the pain you've carried. You are not the mistakes you've made. You are not the roles you've played to survive. You are the woman who chose to rise. You are the woman who chose to heal. You are the woman who chose to show up, even when it was hard, even when it was messy, even when you didn't have all the answers. And here's what Qwantrell Holliday reminded me, and what I want to remind you: there is no power in focusing on when you were beat down. Your power comes from sharing what you endured to pull yourself out. Your power comes from your willingness to be authentic, to be vulnerable, to be real about where you are right now, not where you think you should be. So many of us carry our trauma as a badge of proof that we have endured some horrors in life. We wear it like armor. We use it to explain why we can't move forward, why we can't trust, why we can't choose ourselves. But what if we shifted that? What if instead of focusing on the trauma itself, we focused on the strength it took to survive it? What if instead of hiding our healing journey, we shared it, knowing that our vulnerability could be the very thing that empowers someone else? This is what it means to enter your soft girl era. It's not about pretending the pain didn't happen. It's not about bypassing the hard work of healing. It's about giving yourself permission to be soft, to be gentle, to be kind to yourself, even while you're still figuring it out. It's about releasing the cape, the superwoman cape that says you have to have it all together. It's about redefining strength, not as the ability to carry everything, but as the courage to put some things down. It's about embracing softness, not as weakness, but as a radical act of self love. And here's the truth that we don't talk about enough: healing in real time is messy. It's not a straight line, it's not a checklist, it's not something you do once and then you're done. Healing is a practice, it's a daily choice, it's a commitment to yourself, even when it's hard, even when you want to give up, even when you don't see the progress. But here's what I know: when you choose to heal, when you choose to show up authentically, when you choose to share your story, even while you're still on the journey, you create space for others to do the same. You break generational curses. You shift the narrative. You change the game. So let me ask you this: what is one story from your own journey that you've been afraid to share? What is one truth about where you are right now that you've been hiding? What is one step, no matter how small, that you could take this week toward owning and sharing that story? Because here's what I believe: your story, your messy, imperfect, still in progress story, has the power to change someone's life. Your willingness to show up, even while you're still healing, has the power to inspire someone else to choose themselves. Your courage to be soft, to be vulnerable, to be real, has the power to break generational curses and create a new legacy. You don't have to wait until you're fully healed. You don't have to wait until you have it all together. You don't have to wait until you feel ready. You can start right now, right where you are with what you have. You can choose yourself. You can reclaim your narrative. You can step into your soft girl era, not because you've arrived, but because you're willing to trust the process. I want to leave you with this. We are living in a world that profits from our silence, that benefits from our self doubt, that thrives when we shrink ourselves to fit into boxes that were never designed for us. But you were not created to be small. You were not created to hide. You were not created to wait for permission to be powerful. The women I shared with you today, Arian, Keisha, Ayana, Morgan, and Rachel, they didn't ask for permission. They didn't wait for the world to be ready. They stepped into their power while they were still healing, while they were still figuring it out, while they were still carrying wounds. And they changed the world because of it. So here's my challenge to you: stop waiting, stop hiding, stop believing the lie that you have to be perfect to be powerful. This week, I want you to take one brave step, share one truth you've been holding back, set one boundary you've been afraid to set. Choose yourself in one way that scares you. Write it down, say it out loud. Tell someone you trust, post it where you'll see it every day, and then watch what happens. Watch how that one step creates a ripple. Watch how your courage gives someone else permission to be brave. Watch how your willingness to heal in real time breaks a curse that's been passed down for generations. You are not defined by your trauma. You are defined by your courage to rise. Your power doesn't come from being healed. Your power comes from showing up even while you're still healing. So show up. Be soft, be real, be unapologetically you. The world is waiting for the version of you that refused to wait any longer.